agriculture, and we just have some really great wildlife viewing along this trail. Caballo Lake State Park, to honor its name, we actually have an equestrian trail there. We just built a couple of corrals so that folks can come out and bring their horses and horseback ride within our park. This is located just south of Elephant Butte Lake State Park, and you can see here's the trail alignment, here's the lake, and it's a really nice amenity to have. It's great to provide different types of users, different types of opportunities within our state parks. And you can see here, this is our Stallion Campground Trailhead. So we do have trails within our campgrounds as well, so that folks can have a hiking experience. Percha Dam State Park is very close to Caballo Lake State Park, just to the south. It's a very small park, but it's very popular with bird watchers and wildlife viewers and campers. We don't have a really extensive trail system in there because it is small, but we see the opportunity to have a whole lot more going on there, particularly trying to link up to Caballo Lake State Park. So you can see this is just a little small trail alignment in there. Here's the river. So I think there's some great opportunities for more trail connectivity to connect up to Caballo Lake State Park, which is part of the river feeds into here. Leesburg Dam State Park, which is about 20 minutes north of Las Cruces. That's a lovely park, and we have great camping, great fishing opportunities there. We have a 2.3-mile hike that goes along the river and also up into the hills of the Chihuahuan Desert. So you can see here's the river, here's our river trail, and then we have trail alignments that go up into the rolling hills of the Chihuahuan Desert and provide great overlooks. A lot of folks use these to hike, to birdwatch, and to just enjoy the scenery. And you can see this is our trailhead there. We have used some recreational trails funding money as well at Leesburg Dam. And this is an interpretive overlook at Leesburg, so you can see we have interpretive signs. So some of our trails do have more extensive interpretive and educational signage than others. And finally, Mesilla Valley Bosque State Park. We consider this the southern sister to the Rio Grande Nature Center State Park. We have many school kids that come into Mesilla Valley Bosque and learn about the bosque, learn about the river, do some monitoring. And so they utilize this trail system all through here. There's the river. Mesilla is just located right over here. And this is the trail system that goes along and through some wetland areas that we have established there. It's again, very similar to the Rio Grande Nature Center, very important for educational opportunities and outreach. We couldn't do a lot of this without our volunteers. We have very wonderful volunteers who come out, volunteer their time to help maintain trails, to help put in bird blinds, and they're very passionate about their trails, and so it's a great way to have them help us and help our visitors have a good trail experience. I put this quote, "A trail is a place that connects us with those of 10,000 years past and 10,000 years in the future." I think we have an amazing opportunity in front of us. Our trails can follow along the Camino Real and get us to think about our past. Our trails are present. You know, you're in the moment when you're on those trails looking at the wonderful natural resources that are out there. So we are the representatives for the trails for the future. And I think that it's an amazing opportunity that we have, and I look very much forward to working with you on this.
Thank you,
Mr. Chairman.
Christy. Are there questions for Commissioner Tafoya?
Christine, didn't mention a lot of or much of the northern end, and I know there's trails there, and particularly through the Rio Grande National Monument and along the corridor. I don't know south of the monument or not, but certainly within the monument there are a good deal of trails there. We need to figure out how to connect those as well. BLM, I think, oversees much of that area, and I'm trying to figure out how we can connect those so that it becomes an integral part from one end to the other, and particularly with signage. Either at mile 0 at the state line in Colorado, and down to the state line in Texas. I think at the two ends we need to probably figure out how we can get some signage there and establish that as the actual start and end areas, and then figure out what's in between, and figure out how we're going to connect what's not already a trail. And that's the big challenge for this group.
I agree with you, Senator. And, as I said, in 2009, the BLM was ready to do it. And I would suggest that perhaps we even consider a committee to talk about a plan very similar to the Southern Rio Grande that we completed in 2008, but complete one for the Northern Rio Grande that could look into doing that and, find all those connections and look at all those property owners. And that would be my suggestion. That could be a very easy committee that we could establish.
Indeed. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I have a question.
Yes.
Commissioner Tafoya, how many tribes were identified that this is going to affect? And do we know which ones at this point?
So I think that it's going to affect beyond just the Rio Grande Pueblos, which is going to affect all of them. I believe that it'll impact other tribes and pueblos as well, because we will need to conduct tribal consultation for new trail alignments, because there are tribes and pueblos that are beyond, that have cultural affiliation with the Rio Grande corridor. So the New Mexico State Historic Preservation Office and your office, I think, working together with both of you to determine who we need to be consulting with on these different alignments. I think that will be key. So I don't have an exact number for you, but I know that we're going to have to be consulting beyond just the pueblos along the Rio Grande corridor.
Right. Okay. And during the public meetings prior, were the tribes involved in that as well?
I believe that, let me acquiesce to Dr. Certain, if you don't mind.
No, I don't mind. David Certain, New Mexico State Parks. At that time I was the state trail coordinator and was responsible for 3 or 4 of these regional stakeholder meetings. At that time, we were not involving any of the pueblos in those initial discussions. I think what we were trying to do is grab the lowest hanging fruit and establish trails where it was probably going to be the most easiest, and that was going to be in places where trail already existed, in communities and on federal lands where we already had commitments from those agencies to establish trail. So no, we have not had any real significant discussions with pueblos up to this point.
Thank you.
And I will say that for trail segments that State Parks has put in, we have consulted with tribes. Beyond our federal owners and our federal responsibilities, we have a tribal policy that requires that we conduct tribal consultation on everything that we do that's ground disturbing like that.
Yes.
Lori Warren, Commissioner Warren. I had a question in terms of, I noticed on your page with your stakeholders that you had referenced U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. Have there been any previous discussions about the urban refuge, Valle de Oro National Wildlife Refuge that is positioned south of Albuquerque?
No, we have not had those discussions, but we're very interested in working with them, and I'm sure that they would be excited to be part of this as well. So most certainly we'll be working with them.
And Bureau of Reclamation's parcel, which is right adjacent, borders the Rio Grande and the refuge. Have you?
No.
Thank you.
Other questions, comments? No, thank you.
I have one question, actually. I'm Pete Maddox. Is the ultimate vision for Department of State Parks to administer the trail in its full 500 miles?
I think that New Mexico State Parks is most certainly willing to do as much as we can. I mean, we have a lot of responsibilities with the 35 parks that we manage, and we see this as a group effort. We have had a lot of experience with trails, and so we're most certainly happy to help guide the effort. But in terms of a final landing place for the Rio Grande Trail, I can't say that we're going to be able to fully commit to being the point entity, but we can talk about how, you know, what our relationship will be with that.
Can I follow? And so just for clarity, at this point in time, there is not an ultimate landing spot for who would administer this trail.
That's right, and I think that we as a commission need to determine that. You know, if it ends up, you know, that state parks, we are able to be the funnel for some of this, then I think that would be good. But I think, you know, we need to have the discussion, you know, what entity is going to be the best to administer this and be able to take the time and have the resources to do that.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Well, that leads us into our discussion on what we're calling a path forward. You know, we've already had a little bit of input on the concept of what this trail would entail. But if there's additional discussion and input at this time, I'd open up the floor for that discussion.
Clearly, whether it's state parks or whomever takes the lead, there's going to be funding required to initiate and ultimately maintain. In part, some of that is going to have to be, I suspect, generated through the general fund first off, and then in time it should generate funding on its own somehow, either through a fee, a user fee of some type. But I think the initial is going to require, and I think we need to establish what that is, and whether or not we have the capacity or the capability to provide some of that money. I think we do, and we should, quite honestly. I think it's crucial and important enough for us to pursue vigorously as quickly as we can, and maybe that may be one of the first tasks for this commission is to present a budget to LFC to try to move that forward.
I nominate you to be on the budget committee.
Thank you.
I think Representative Steinborn was first.
Thank you, Secretary, Chairman. I appreciate what the State Parks Director, Commissioner Foy, said about the committee structure. And my own thought is there's so many different tasks to accomplish in this that, and we're just statutorily required, I think, to meet a minimum of 3 times a year. So really, a large body of the work is going to have to happen outside of these commission meetings, in committee meetings, and effectively parsing that out and getting everyone sitting out here involved in their piece of that puzzle, along with others who we all know are interested in doing this and have them in all of the states, and a lot of groups, regionally and everything else, which I think is an excellent suggestion. And, so along those lines, Mr. Chairman, I think one starting point for the biggest job, which is the path itself, is maybe, and I know you want to have a meeting sooner than later, would maybe be if we could ask Commissioner Tafoya to bring together a map that has the known data of existing path routes, landowners, and then I think we could devise an approach to how to work with those different jurisdictions based upon data that we have in front of us, which we don't have in front of us right now. And I know that you're talking about hiring a coordinator, and I would see that person would be very involved in integrating all those efforts. That would be one suggestion, but beyond that, just listening to everyone else, I'm hearing a few other ideas for potential committees that could involve funding and promotion, New Mexico Troop type of stuff.
and the management of this. And there's so many different elements that were spoken about, you know, from security to, EMT, features along the trail. So I'm not sure what's the most efficient way to break those committees up, but maybe that's a discussion we could have today too. Just throw out some ideas of possible groupings of committees.
I appreciate that comment. Actually, we have given some thought to that, and I think Commissioner Tafoya can give us some thoughts on that. Did Commissioner Latham, you have some questions first?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Recently, we were in Silver City and met with stakeholders from the Arts and Cultural District who are very involved in the Continental Divide Trail and promoting the Continental Divide Trail, which runs from the Boot Heel through Trauma, existing in our state. And the question was brought up as to what the role of this trail should be in conjunction with that trail, or how we promote both, or why aren't we doing more to promote the existing trail. And I'm just curious, I'm not familiar with how that trail was structured or how it got to be so well established, but I'm curious to know from any of the commission or members of the audience, with regards to funding and establishment of that trail, obviously much larger than New Mexico, if we might be able to look towards that trail as a model.